Hello, and welcome to our new unit on witchcraft. So, you may think of witches as the Wicked Witch in the West, or as scary creatures in horror movies, or you might know a witch or be a witch, like a neo pagan or a Wiccan, or an Alexandrian or Gardnerian reconstructed witch, or even a fairy. Those are all things we're going to get to later. But that's not what we're looking at today. What we're looking at today is a global phenomenon and a historical phenomenon by which misfortunes and social tensions are addressed by accusations of witchcraft. Now, by and large, the history of witchcraft and witch accusations is a history of violence, brutality, and terror. I mean, how many witches or accused witches were burned in the West, in Europe, and in the United States even? This stuff goes on today where people are accused of witchcraft and are murdered. So there's some big stakes to witchcraft. Namely, it can lead to people, mostly female, being killed. But we're going to start today by looking at witchcraft amongst the Azandi. And we're going to be reading this classic book, which I encountered in my undergraduate. I still think this is, again, one of the great things about this class is I get to assign some of my favorite books. So this book shows a system of witchcraft that you're going to become quite familiar with, to the point that you might even catch yourself thinking about witchcraft. I remember one of the first times I taught this at another university, I had a student, we were about 2 weeks into the unit, and she walked in and she had a cast on her foot. And I said, "Who hates you?" And she looked at me and she went, "I think it's my roommate. I'm just saying, my roommate's been really cranky with me and kind of jealous and sort of mean. And this isn't the first thing that my car broke down the other day. I'm thinking it's witchcraft." And I said, could be. So one of the cool things about the Azandi notion of witchcraft is it's actually positive. It's a positive understanding of the world that actually reinforces good social relationships between people, as I'll get to in our lecture today. And that's really intriguing because our second case study on witchcraft, I'll talk about it briefly today, will be by Dominique Favrasada, and she wrote this incredible book called Deadly Words. And in that, she shows an incredibly antisocial type of witchcraft that is more in line with how witchcraft accusations go kind of worldwide. Now, there is a problem to all this. I'm saying worldwide. There's no constant word for witchcraft in all of these cultures that speak different languages, but we see specific dynamics that we'll point to as being a sort of a cluster of ideas that will allow us to identify a thing as witchcraft. So my question is always, would the Azande see witchcraft accusations in India or witchcraft accusations in France with Deadly Words as being the same thing? We will see that Favrasada analyzes her witchcraft cases based primarily on Evans Pritchard. This book is the definitive book on witchcraft around the world, and anyone who writes on witchcraft has to make reference to it because it's such a lucid, cohesive, and innovative treatment of the topic. So without further ado, welcome to the world of witchcraft. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll be on our way. All right, Azandi witchcraft, a social system. So, it looks like my subtitles aren't available. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so magic and witchcraft, more appropriately, anti-witchcraft, is a huge part of Azandi culture. But the question remains, with all of this talk about witchcraft, are there actually any witches? Well, no, there actually aren't. So let me pause this for a second. I'm going to try to get my subtitles started. So I'll be right back. All right, we're back and we should have subtitles now. So are there witches? Well, no. By and large, when you look at all of this lore about witchcraft, you'll see that there are no actual witches doing anything. There's a lot of speculation about witches do. There's a lot of discussion about secret actions of witches. And we're going to read actually in Evans Pritchard about all sorts of magic rituals, and we're going to read about secret societies. And there's going to be a speculation by Evans Pritchard that there could be witches in a secret society, but there's no evidence of this. So when you see, anytime you're looking at any culture, accusations of witchcraft, the thing to remember is what you want to look at is not the stuff witches actually do, but counter sorcery, counter witchcraft. What are the rituals that people are doing to address the problem of witchcraft? They'll speculate and tell you all about what witches do, but I would say almost universally, there's no witches out there that are actually cursing anyone. What we see is this worldwide trend of accusations. So there may be talk of witches, but there are no witches. There may be talk of witchcraft, but the rituals around witchcraft are about getting rid of witchcraft. Now, India makes it funny, though. Look at all we looked at before, because there you actually have texts that describe these hostile rituals. You'll see in Favrasada later that she could never get a hold of these supposed grimoires that all the witches have. And for all the time Evans Pritchard spent there, he never saw someone who actively called themselves a witch and did witchy stuff. There are no books of spells here like we see in the magic tantras in Africa. We don't see books of spells. You don't see secret grimoires, which we'll talk about in a little while later. The secret grimoires or spell books in Europe tend to be, it's unclear how much people are actually practicing with them. And I would argue that a lot of the writing in grimoires, kind of cross-culturally, is more about fantasy and imagination. You know how I like to think about fantasy and imagination. So